Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have another fellow content creator, Polyfrog64, who does political commentary and reports on current events. You want to say hi, Polly?
Hello, everybody.
There he is. Yeah, and so as per my usual process, we're just going to dive right into the dream, and then we'll see what we got. So begin at the beginning whenever you're ready.
All right. So this dream happened about a day ago. I was with a group of people, and there were soldiers marching us along. Our hands were bound together, and they kept shoving us and moving us forward. And we were marching for a while, till finally we came to this building, this big wall, and they started pushing us against the wall and facing us forward. And the officer or the sergeant or the leader of the group asked all of us, and there must have been about 30 or 40 people, and he asked, who among you believes in the Christ? And everybody shouted yes, but except for me. I didn't, and I shouted, no, I don't. And then they took me out of the group, and then they all raised their weapons and fired and killed everyone. They cut my binds, and they didn't say anything to me. I just collapsed on the ground. I was in shock. I was horrified and disgusted with myself that I was a coward and that I wouldn't die for my faith. And I was left alone, and I looked around, and I could see everybody was dead. And it shocked me to my core. And then I woke up, and it was just very, very unsettling. Because I'm a Christian, and that's one of the things we're called to do is, if we're called to do that, we're supposed to die for our faith. But, like John, who denied Christ, I did the same thing. And it was just upsetting that, I didn't have the bravery that they had. And like I said, and then I woke up.
Okay.
And like Peter, who denied Christ, I basically did the same thing.
Is that a thought you had in the dream? I'm like Peter.
No, I had that. I had that when I woke up, and I was thinking about, because I grew up in a religious. I have a religious background. So I'm the son of a pastor, and so I have a lot of so I'm thinking it contextually in the forms
for sure.
of my upbringing.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly where I was going to go. We've basically done the second pass, the deep dive, and now we're into the interpretation section. Which the first thing I do is ask what comes to mind. And for you, you'd already kind of started this process in your mind of, you kind of knew exactly what you were feeling when you woke up, which is, God, I'm just like Peter. I did it. I denied Christ, and I lived, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah,
that was kind of your feeling.
Yeah, that was exactly my feeling. That was exactly my thoughts when I woke up.
Yeah, in terms of going back through it, kind of that deep dive second time, did anything stand out to you as like, you got a tickle of that? That seems important. I don't know why, or maybe you do know why, but did any specific imagery elements stand out as something that deserves our attention first?
Not that I can think of, no.
Okay. I mean, in broad strokes, it seems like almost a fairly straightforward dream of your struggle to be a good Christian, that this is something you want, and you're maybe concerned you're not going to achieve it well. Maybe when put to the test, you might fail in that sense. That's kind of my first impression of like the big picture. I don't know. Does that kind of resonate with you a little bit?
No, that actually does resonate with me quite well, in fact, because yeah, I do struggle with my faith. I do struggle in my walk, and you hit it on the head when you said, am I going to pass the test? If my faith is challenged like that, am I going to, be able to step up and meet that plate? And so yeah, you pretty much hit it on the head right there.
Is that a thought you kind of already had before we got started, or?
Not in that context. I was just thinking of Peter, be like, oh man, I'm gonna be like Peter. I'm gonna. Well, it's kind of the failure part, yeah. Like I'm gonna fail in my faith. That part, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna fail in my faith, and I'm not gonna be able to, be, like you said, a good Christian, because when the chips are down, I'm just gonna throw in the towel and just say, oh, I give up. It's too hard. Yeah.
I mean, I think we all worry about that. Whatever our particular belief system is like, is it going to survive a crucible? Is it going to carry us through when it would be more convenient or easier to set it aside for another path? Are we going to stay on that path even if it's more difficult? I think a lot of us struggle with that across multiple different faiths or belief systems. So yeah, I think that's one of those universal human experiences that, we could all kind of understand on a gut level, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely, it does.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so that's kind of a jumping off point, and I mean that could be a conclusion as well. But the maybe more interesting, more important part is why this dream now. What's going on in your life in terms of are you being tested in a sense in your waking life in a way that makes this dream come to you and say, here's what you're worried about right now. This is where I always offer, or remind, or this is why I tell folks in the very beginning that if we're getting into anything too personal, you don't have to disclose it, and personally identifying information or stuff that's too difficult to talk about. But that's usually what it relates to. I mean, what does the dream mean? And then why does it happen? And that can be the more important part. So I feel like I've talked too much and not let you answer. So does anything come to mind?
Oh no, you're absolutely fine. Well, I do struggle with my walk. It's not easy, like I'm not studying as much as I should. I'm not, I guess I'm just not doing my due diligence enough when it comes to my faith and comes to my walk. Like one of the things I struggle with is forgiving my enemies. I tend to have a lot of anger, and it's hard to practice loving your enemies and forgiving your enemies, and so those are some of the things I struggle with.
Yeah. Did some particular event happen within the day or two preceding this dream? Something that kind of brought that back to mind? Like, did you feel like you experienced a personal failure in that regard, or something that? Well,
I'm back. I'm trying to get back into my walk and back into. I just got linked back up with a new church in Colorado. Okay. And so I'm trying to, just like get back into it.
Yeah. In terms of the time frame, did this dream happen after you arrived for your family visit that you're currently on?
Yes.
Is there anything about interacting with particular family members that might have brought this on, do you think?
I don't know. I can't say. I know that there's a whole half of my family that outright rejects God and the Christian belief system and Christian faith. And then there's me who I've been off and on with my faith. Like there was a whole period where I became extremely nihilistic. And I've talked about it on stream where I got into drugs. And I struggle not only with my faith, but also drug addiction. You know, I've been doing good, but it's not easy.
No, it's not.
And so I got into I got into a period of nihilism where I completely denied my faith, and I said, you know, there is no God, nothing matters, nothing's important. You know, I'm suffering, so I might as well just party, live it up, do drugs, and make myself feel good until I, you know, either meet an early grave or, you know, until I die.
For sure. And that's very tempting as well. I mean, once you get into that mindset of, fuck it, nothing matters anyway, you might as well make yourself feel as good as you can, even if there's other consequences to it. Because what are you abstaining for? I mean, that's the big question, is why would I not do that? And, you know, for you found a variety of, you know, different answers of like, it's not who you want to be. It's not, and this is taken from my knowledge of things you've said on stream, is like, you know, you had some negative experiences of like, I don't want to go through that again. And those are very good reasons to say, that's not working for me. I'm going to change what I'm doing. So,
right. And then the biggest thing was even though I was chemically filling a void, the emptiness was always there as soon as I ran out.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, it's like no matter how much I put into my body, it was never enough. And I was constantly, I remember when I was really in the thick of it, I remember thinking, I just want to feel good. I just want to feel happy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, that's, what is a way I've heard it said is that like, doing drugs makes a lot of sense because they do make you feel great. I mean, nobody would do it if it made you feel terrible while it's happening. And that's the seduction. The seduction of it is like, you can have this amazing feeling. It doesn't last very long and you feel worse after, but then people try to chase that. They go back to, I just want to feel that good again. And, and then some people have a hard time getting out of it, and it's always tempting to go back. It's like right around the next corner is another, say, wall where you're going to be lined up and tested. And that temptation maybe to go back to it is maybe I can just not feel that experience anymore, not have to struggle as hard with that. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now. This is
no, you're not. You're not. Yeah, no, because that was another thing. It's like I also used to mask my feelings. I had a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of anger towards people who had betrayed me. You know, and negative experiences I had growing up, and the whole, you know, bout with psychosis and all of that, and I was also trying to cover that stuff up as well.
For sure. Yeah. And that's probably the number one reason people get into the drug thing is the intensity of negative emotions. I think there's a section of people who get into addictive behavior due to physical causes, and that's especially true with, like, say, taking painkillers after a surgery. It's like you have a very real physical pain. You need the medication for a while, at least, to get you past the period where your body's healing. But that's actually a much smaller portion of drug addiction in general. It tends to be more people suffering emotionally and trying to turn that off, escape from it. So I call it, you know, it's actually kind of a coping mechanism. Well, it certainly is, but it's just a dysfunctional one that like tends to cause more harm than good in the long run. But while you're doing it, man, it's amazing, and nothing feels as good until it wears off.
Yep. Until it wears off. And like even sex, food, like nothing could compare to that high. But
for sure.
But like you said, it eventually becomes a cycle. Then you spiral.
Yeah. And it's almost universally just a matter of time so if anyone's out there listening and you're like, hey, maybe I should do drugs, probably not a good idea. And if you're not too far into it, it's not too late. It's never too late to put it down, but the sooner you kind of realize certain patterns, it's like the patterns of behavior. This gets a little complicated too, because we have a whole culture where, alcohol is everywhere and we drink socially and people get a nice little buzz. And so what's the difference between just drinking beer once in a while and alcoholism? It's a matter of degree, and how fucked up does your life get because you're prioritizing getting drunk over taking care of business, showing up to work on time, having healthy relationships with your family. If something, they say it's not a problem unless it's a problem. But when it's a problem, you got to really be able to see that and do something about it.
Yep.
Big picture.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You're absolutely correct. And so I not only do I struggle with the addiction issue, but then I also do struggle with my faith.
And that's a big part of the addiction thing too, because your faith would say, don't do that. And so do it would be a violation of your faith. That would be another test to fail, so to speak. And just coming back to your vacation and your families, like you mentioned, part of your family are more atheistic. They reject the faith. Have you, in this vacation now, are you coming in contact with more of those folks?
Yes.
Okay. That seems a pretty strong connection in terms of why this dream would come up, is you're seeing people living their life without this belief structure and to varying degrees of success. I mean, just being a Christian doesn't mean you automatically win, and being an atheist doesn't mean you automatically lose. But now you're having this physical representation of another path shown to you that might be tempting. Might be tempting to say, I could just drop my faith and live like they do. So that might have been related to why this dream came to you in this way.
I mean, yeah, it absolutely could be, because like my aunt, she drinks, uncles, my sister, and the only one it's really an issue for is my uncle.
he's the one that may be taking it too far.
Yeah, he's taking it a little too far. But they're kind of just living their other lifestyle, and I think you might be right. My brain might be going, no, that doesn't look so bad.
They seem to be doing okay or enjoying themselves.
Yeah, they seem to be enjoying themselves. They seem to be doing all right. But as soon as I get on that track, because one is going to become, 2, and then 2 is going to become 4.
Yeah.
And then before I know it,
did you kind of have that experience, right, or at least the momentary temptation flash through your mind of, I could just have a beer with them. I could just pour out a glass and join them. Did you have that moment?
Yeah, I do. Like, it's like, that's one of the reasons, like, if there's alcohol and, I will excuse myself if it becomes too much. I'll be like, you know what? It's good. Like, I'll say hello, pop in for maybe an hour or two, and then, I'm out.
Yeah, no, I think that's very good. It's like, there's a lot of folks who, what am I trying to say? There's a scenario you've probably seen played out where it's like former drinker, now recovering alcoholic or whatever, and their friends are saying, "Hey, we're going to the bar. Do you want to come?" "Oh, that's right, you can't go." And he's like, just because I don't drink doesn't mean you can't. And that type of iconic person is very healthy in their recovery and very certain, and they can go to a bar and not risk being tempted to drink. But then there's a flip side of that coin, which is a person who's having a harder time being that firm. They haven't achieved that kind of Zen master enlightenment around it where it doesn't affect them anymore. And long story short, to get around to it, if you are in that position, excusing yourself and saying, I'm having bad thoughts about this. I'm gonna take a hike, guys, and it's good to see you. And I think that's very healthy. But long way to say I totally endorse that functional coping skill for keeping yourself out of trouble. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and even my sponsor, like he would go to that's why I brought that up. He would say make a plan, because his family they're severe alcoholics. They're not just drinkers. They're like they're drinking half a bottle of whiskey for Thanksgiving, and so he'll show up, eat for an hour, and then leave.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like even he with 14 years of recovery is like, this is too much for me. So like, I think it's not just about being a Zen master, but you do bring up a good point. There are some people who can handle that.
Yeah.
And then there's people like me and my sponsor who, we can't handle that. We got to be able to excuse ourselves and be I got to go. Because,
and I think I may have presented that in what I was doing was presenting the media pop psych image of the recovering alcoholic where they've conquered their demons. And the flip side of it is, or rather the reality of it is that most people never entirely conquer that demon. There's always going to be that temptation, and that actually your experience is more common by far. Very few attain that pop psych media representation of a person in recovery where they've mastered it. They finally got it right, and it's behind them entirely. It's almost always going to be somewhat of a struggle, even if it gets easier over time, and it typically does.
Yeah. And I would say that's actually a perfectly good and fair assessment. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to give the wrong impression or make you feel like you were doing anything wrong or not living up to some ideal.
No. I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong. I was just saying in my own experience, I have seen people who can be in that environment for a prolonged period of time, or pick up their wife from the bar, or even my sponsor, his wife drinks. She just doesn't drink around him, but she has a cabinet full of the stuff, and she keeps it locked, and she likes to have a cocktail at night, and and they make it work, and his sponsor knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, some people can make it work.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's got a plan too. Like if he ever feels like getting an axe and busting into that liquor cabinet, that's when he bounces. That's when he goes to call somebody and gets out of the house.
Yes, and that's why he keeps in contact with his sponsor, and I've gone out to many nights of coffee with other people who have had temptations late at night and be like, hey, let's go talk about this.
That's good. I mean, just in terms of plain mental health in general, just having that support network is huge. That's one of the things that makes that whole AA system work is as they say, if you work, the system works, if you work the system. And part of that functionality is having people you can turn to when you're having a problem, and so you're not alone with it. Facing your demons alone in the dark is horrible, and a lot of people get overwhelmed by it, but just having one other person to talk to, it's amazing. Huge difference.
It absolutely is, and that's kind of what I wish my father would do. He hasn't really built up a support network, and that's and so he's struggling. He's doing okay, but it's like he could be a lot further along and a lot better if he would build up that support network. But I got to just focus on me. I can't worry about him.
Yeah, you're going to, but that's a very important realization too, is that you can't save anyone. You can reach out your hand and they have to take it and they got to want it. But as much as you care, the strength of your caring doesn't necessarily change anything. They gotta do their part when they're ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Well, we didn't go on a huge tangent. It's all related, but I did want to get back into some of the actual dream imagery, because I think some of it, I put little marks down around stuff. I guess one of the first things that came to mind, one of the first marks that I made, was that it was a large group of people that you were with, that there maybe were 30 to 40 of them, and that you were all being marched there, and your position in the line seemed interesting as well. You weren't at the head of the line, you were towards the back, but not all the way to the back. That something in that distribution and your position there and the quantity of people seemed interesting to me. I don't know if anything comes to mind just thinking about from that perspective.
Well, I tend to put others ahead of myself. Sorry. Somebody opened the door.
That's okay. They can say hello.
Okay. I tend to be a caregiver. I tend to help others, and put others ahead of myself. I don't know, and I tend to, like on the freeway, like I'll let people cut ahead of me.
Yeah. That's probably a very wise practical move, because people are assholes and they'll cut you off and clip your damn car. So I just back off too, for sure. Like you go ahead and drive. You go ahead and drive aggressively.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's been my rule. It's be like, leave early and don't be in a hurry to get there.
Oh yeah,
and you don't have to stress.
I mean, I'm in my early 40s. I drive like I'm 80. I'm like, you leave plenty of time. I'm driving slow. Go around me. Go around here. I'll pull over.
Well, I don't drive like I'm 80, but I'm just not in a hurry to get there. So if the speed limit's 45, I'm probably going 5 under.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but yeah, that's not being in a hurry, not putting yourself intentionally in a stressful situation that you don't have to be in because of poor planning. I'm very much the same way. Try and think ahead, leave plenty of time, take my time, pay attention to what I'm doing. That's me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, like I'll let people go ahead of me in line and stuff. Like if they just got a few items or something like that, I'll be like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I feel good about that kind of stuff too. It's that little random acts of kindness where it's like, I did a good thing. I made someone's day better.
That's the only thing I can think of. I'm just trying to think of why I would be towards the back. Also, the last shall be first comes to mind.
Sure.
In scripture, although I don't know, it's kind of weird this is kind of a weird context to apply it to this dream. May
or may not fit exactly well unless it has some personal significance to you. I suppose the thought that comes to my mind is the idea that it's a large group of people, as in you're not alone. You're with other folks that are ostensibly similar, and there's many of them ahead of you on you've used the words the path, and in this dream you're walking a path with these other folks, and there's quite a few of them who are further ahead on this path. So to my mind, it was saying something like, you maybe conceptualize your position in a hierarchy of people who are on the same path as somewhere towards the back, not at the end of the line. You're not that bad, but you're definitely not at the head of the line or anywhere near the front. You're kind of in the back. That kind of gets more to that struggle with walking the path concept.
That is interesting that you mentioned that, because I oftentimes I will think about like where other people are in life just in general, and where I'm at. And, one of the things I'll do to make myself feel better is to go, well, I'm not as bad as that guy, though, but I can get there, but I'm not there.
It's true. And having people further ahead of you also gives you people to aspire to. But it's also maybe you just your relative understanding of your position in life in general, in terms of, I'm not at the end of the line. I'm just not very far along. Fair enough. And there's many people ahead of me. So it's in life in general, and in the expression of living a Christian life. That's probably what it would represent to me most strongly.
Oh, actually, yeah, that makes plenty of sense too. Yeah, people are further along in their walk, or they're further along in their life and their walk.
Yeah.
And me, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the least, but I'm close to the least.
Yeah, and that can be a very healthy way of looking at it, as in just a practical, realistic terms of like, I got a lot of room to grow. It can also be a little hard on yourself in terms of how far you put yourself back in the line of like, maybe you don't really belong all the way there, but at least you didn't put yourself at the end. So that's, you recognize you got some positive qualities that make you, say, more valuable or further along towards where you want to be. And that's just just that imagery of where you are in line with these other folks. But then also the hands bound thing, which is very iconic of prisoners being led somewhere. But something popped into my head too about the idea that your faith has a binding nature to it, that sometimes it feels constrictive. It limits your choices. And that isn't to say you don't think that's valuable, but that's part of the struggle. Is it isn't easy to do this because it feels like my choices are being limited. My hands are tied, figuratively or in the dream, stopping me from doing some other things that I might like to do, but maybe that's a good thing. I don't know if that resonates at all.
Yeah, in the context of my faith, it's like, yeah, there are, there are certain things we're not supposed to do, which can feel like it's limiting your freedom, but it's not really. It's to keep you from falling into a lot of traps.
Yeah.
So I like that you said that it can also have a positive connotation, and that's how I would kind of look at that. It's like, yeah, there might be some things that might make it feel like you're constricted, you're bound, but not all of those things are necessarily bad. I would agree with that.
For sure. And then that kind of relates going from the initial opening scene imagery to the very end, where you get those bounds cut by virtue of the rejection that saves you from death. But then the people who cut you free leave you, and now you're alone. Now you're without the group that you were traveling with, and you're without the people that represent the enemy, or you get nobody. You're free. You're free, but now what? I don't know if that kind of stands out to you as well.
Yeah, that's it exactly. It's like I'm free, but now what?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the soldiers don't want me, and everybody else is dead, and it's like, well, now what do I do?
Now I'm all alone. I've had this burden, this horrible fate, this doom lifted from me, but now I'm kind of directionless, and that may be also emblematic about that being where the dream ends, as well as that then you wake up, because that's where the imagery needed to take you to understanding that feeling of I don't know, words are failing me right now, but it's sometimes where a dream starts and where it cuts off has relevance as well. Sometimes you're falling and you wake up before you hit the ground, and those things make sense. But then other times you get to a resolution, you get to the intensity of a feeling, and that's where the dream was aiming you, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just commentary, I suppose. And then in terms of, we talked about this a little bit too, of the imagery of the redwoods coming back from being a kid, and there might be something in there. Did you start having doubt, second thoughts, or intensely questioning your faith when you were at about that age that you went on that redwoods trip? You say you were about 11, or?
Not at that age. Yeah. I was pretty secure in my faith until about age 19.
Okay.
And then I started questioning more, and then when I turned 21, I started drinking, and I know I'm a straight edge. I didn't get drunk until I turned 21, but
yeah. I'll admit I did a couple times, but I really didn't.
That opened the door, because I was like, if alcohol makes me feel this good, I wonder what other stuff could make me feel good.
Sure.
Yeah. And then I met a woman who smoked pot, and then that set me down that whole path of nihilism, drug use, partying, had just complete abandonment of my faith and pursuing pleasure and play only.
For sure. Yeah. And it's a big temptation, and there's something to be said for us all kind of dabbling in that in different ways, and having each our own path of where we decide it's not working, or just deciding to keep it up until it kills us. I mean, some people are just like, whatever, this is what I want. I mean, it's an odd thing for me where, like, as a therapist and as a caring human being, I want to say that's not maybe good for you. But then as a person who's respecting of boundaries and whatnot, I'm like, I'm not going to tackle you and slap the pipe out of your hand. But as far as I'll go is to say, I don't recommend that. That's not a good idea, but you do you, and hopefully you'll figure it out, and I'll be around if you want to talk about it, that kind of thing,
Right.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. So it's a struggle for me too, in terms of like, I don't want to tell anyone what to do, even though I might think some things are a bad idea, and that's the best I can do is just say it. I wouldn't do that.
No, yeah, I mean that's been my. I was actually in therapy for a couple of years, and that's been my general experience. It's like. He wouldn't stop me from doing anything, but he'd be like, I'd really reconsider that.
Yep.
It's your journey. It's up to you.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you're not really gonna change or take this serious, then there's nothing I can do for you, really.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, it's like giving someone directions. It's like, well, where do you want to go? If you don't have a destination in mind, I can't tell you how to get there. That kind of a thing. And that's like physically in a real world sense with an actual map of like turn left. I got to know where you're going. And we all do in order to give reasonable, relevant advice. But coming back to the idea of the redwoods, I was just trying to make sense of that imagery. It could have been related to family and that specifically that vacation and questioning your faith. So we rattled that doorknob, didn't come open. But I think there's still something relevant in there about your experience of those grand, majestic, giant trees and the fact that you put yourself in that setting for this dream specifically. Does anything come to mind when you think about that? Why those trees in this dream?
Well, we used to, not anymore. We used to have a family cabin out in those big woods.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. If finally we had to, I think we sold it to a rich, like a distant relative.
Okay.
About 3 or 4 years ago.
Do you have any strong memories?
It was a cabin that was over 100 years old.
Wow.
And it was by a lake, and we would go out there every summer.
Okay.
So
you definitely have some strong,
just 2 weeks.
You have some strong feelings, memories, positive associations with that.
Yeah, and of course it wasn't always all positive.
Sure.
There would be arguments or fights and things like that. But the majority of the memories from that cabin were positive.
Thinking about that cabin and those woods in relation to the dream, anything pop up? It does or it doesn't.
Not really in relation to the dream. I just know that I really do like nature.
Yeah.
Nature is during the day is calm and peaceful, but at night it can be terrifying.
Yeah, exciting but terrifying. Yeah. Very, very.
Yeah,
much so.
especially when you have a black bear come try to steal your marshmallows that you're cooking.
Oh shit! Yeah, they could smell that. They could smell that a long way off. Yeah.
And you're just a little kid, and you hear this big.
Oh fuck!
And then you look and you shine your flashlight, and there's a big old face, and then it flops away.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that's scary. Was that an experience you had at that cabin?
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah. But I mean, there were no bears in the dream, so it may not be directly
related. No. It doesn't mean anything towards the dream, but
yeah.
Just I know that the woods. I like being in nature. It's very calming and peaceful, except during the night. The night, for sure. It's and in the dream it was either dusk or morning. It wasn't.
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask about that too.
Yeah, I should have mentioned the time of day. It was either dusk or morning. It wasn't nighttime.
But it wasn't noon.
Either the sun was coming up or the sun was going down. I just can't remember.
And that can be iconic in dreams too, just in general of transitional periods. The rising of the sun, the setting of the sun seems to be iconic in the human mind of as I said, transitional periods where one thing is changing into another. And it almost doesn't matter whether it's sun's coming up or going down. I mean, if you knew specifically it was one or the other, that might be relevant. But I think that would relate to the dream in general in terms of feeling like you're in a transitional period. Not exactly that there's change happening or possible. Or I think it would be indicative of a transition. So I think
I think right now, I mean, well, think about it. Like I just moved out to a new state.
That's true.
I'm just getting back into my faith and my walk, and so I'm trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. And so I think it is. I think it has a lot to do with like a transitional period.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's good. I'm glad you mentioned it, because it just it helps kind of broaden that or complete the picture of what we're dealing with the dream. And sometimes no single element is the key, but you put them all together and you start seeing like a Bob Ross, happy little trees everywhere. Speaking of trees, God, I love that guy. I miss that guy. We'll put a little bird over here. I think it was also significant. We mentioned this a little bit earlier. The idea of the curve in the road is that the road turned you. Like you didn't make a turn in the road. The road took you in a direction. Oh, I think I lost you. I'm going to bring you back. Just kept popping you into the other channel, but I think we got to figure it out.
Okay,
that's okay.
Well, we're back.
Yeah. No, and I was just talking about the idea, to roll back into it, of the road taking you a place. Like the road turns itself, not that you made a turn. It wasn't an intersection.
Right.
But it did change direction. So there's something of an involuntary nature in there. Like if you're following the road will take you in a direction. I don't know if that speaks to you in any particular. It might not be that relevant, but and the fact that it happened right before you hit the wall and the consequences of being at the wall, there might be something in that imagery. I don't know.
I'm trying to think if there is anything that I can think of.
If nothing comes to mind off the top of your head, it may not be that. Yeah,
because usually if there's a fork, it's like you're choosing to go down a different path.
Yeah, I think.
It's this. Maybe it's because maybe it's because of what I've read about predestination. Like we're all like, if you believe in predestination, we all have a set road.
Sure.
And then we still have free choice, so we can choose what we do on that road.
Yeah. And that is an interesting conundrum. I mean, philosophers are still debating that. Do we even have free will? Who knows, right?
Right.
My solution to that conundrum was, it seems like I do, so I just have to kind of pretend it's true.
And I don't know if I buy into the. I don't know if I buy into the whole predestination thing, but some there's all sorts of different philosophies about that. Like you were mentioning, like, do we even have free will?
And there's interesting questions too, with the idea that like God has a plan or a path, or He's taking you somewhere, and sometimes it's not exactly a place you would prefer to be, but maybe it's a place you're supposed to be in that sense, like meant to be, which isn't a whole nother philosophical question as well. But I don't know if you're struggling with any of those questions of what is God's plan for me, trying to find out what you're supposed to do. I do. Like one of the things I was doing while I was working at my last job before I ended up going to Colorado, and before the coronavirus shut down, it was just after they had lifted the shutdown and we could go back to work. I quit my job because the masks were making me sick. And so I decided, well, I'm going to go back to school. And while I was working at Ross, though, I was actually doing a study on how to determine God's will for your life, and how to, there's basically a study plan. Okay.
And by the end of the study plan, when you got to the end, hopefully, by doing the 30 days, you might get something revealed to you, or you might have a dream, or somebody might get put in your life. Yeah. And so, and that was the whole purpose of that study plan, was determining God's purpose for your life. And that is something that I often wonder. I'm like, what is God's purpose for my life? Like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, what did He put me here to do? Yeah.
That's a very interesting to me too, that kind of 30-day plan. Did you finish it out, or you ended up moving instead?
I didn't end up finishing it. But it is interesting.
I
think I got to day 20 or day 19.
Wow, that's still pretty far along.
Yeah.
It appears it appears what may have been revealed to you was you need to move to Colorado, and that's what you did. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. That seemed to be the decision, a decision you came to while you were on that path, while you were during that process. That is an interesting occurrence. I don't know what to make of it.
I'm not sure what to make of it either. But yeah, I'm in Colorado now, and I'm starting up my walk. I'm starting up my walk again, and so yeah. I think it's a fair dream. It's like, so it's kind of symbolizes like a transition period.
Yeah, for sure. And as we said in the very beginning, this idea that you're struggling with your self-confidence is not the way to put it, but it is like a confidence in yourself to successfully follow through with this thing you think is important, and to succeed, and that fear that we all have in us, that when we're really, when it comes down to it, what am I going to do? Am I going to do what I think I should do, or am I going to do what's easier, what makes me happier for the moment, or what gets me out of trouble, or avoids consequences I'd prefer not to endure because of my commitments. I don't know that I had a lot of other notes. I mean, I kind of went
through what you had.
I suppose so. A couple other things stood out to me, but they may not be relevant. I mean, just the idea of backs to the wall, that phrase, that, you know, having your back put up against the wall is like being held accountable in a way, but also like there's nowhere to go. You have to confront something. And in this specific imagery, it was confronting a firing squad over the, you know, matters of faith, but just in general, just that idea of having your back up against the wall is like there's nowhere to go. There's no escape from this decision, this choice, this consequence. Something is going to happen, whether I want it to or not. So that symbology might have been important. It also could have been that, what do you remember having seen from evidence of past executions? They line you up with your back against the wall and go down the row. So it could have been that easy to explain, but it also seems dreams are often like double. It takes something you're familiar with and puts it there to tell you something else, or because it's another expression of how you're feeling about something.
True. It typically doesn't have like just a literal meaning. Not very often. Yeah. Yeah. Like red is red. The red probably symbolizes something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
And I suppose, I don't know. I can barely read my own chicken scratch sometimes. There was something else. The idea of everyone being arranged just so, but maybe we got into that a little bit with the whole God's plan type of thing, is like, you know, you'll be put where you need to be for what you need to do. That could have been part of that symbolism. Yeah,
I think so.
So
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I have no idea why they were being so particular and lining everybody up neatly. Maybe just make it easier for them, or maybe like you said, it was symbolism of you know God's going to put you where you need to be,
even if it kills you sometimes. Yeah. Which that may be part of what you're struggling with too, as well, as, you know, like if I commit to this path, I might suffer, which is kind of the whole Bible's full of people very dedicated to God suffering because they it may be better.
It says it right in there. The you know, do not be surprised if the world hates you.
Yeah.
You know, it says it right in there.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
You know, it's like yeah, it's not going to be an easy path. You know, if it's an easy path, then you might want to re-examine, you know, some things.
Yeah. That's I don't know.
Not to say that it can't be, but even the people who had it the best in the Bible, you know, they struggled with stuff, and you know, or fell out of favor with God, or you know, had to redeem themselves somehow, or you know, face their demons.
For sure. That's one of the things I love it. You know, as a person who's not particularly committed to any faith myself, but I love it for the variety of human stories that are in it, and these different examples of, if you're in this kind of a situation, facing this kind of thing, this is what it looks like, and this is maybe how you come out the other side of it better off than if you didn't follow this advice. I love that kind of a collected human wisdom aspect of it. So yeah, whether or not I'm a believer is kind of irrelevant to whether I think the stories have tremendous value. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I come from on that one. Looking back on everything else, does it seem like anything else stands out as particularly important? Something you're thinking, like, this is one part I don't understand, or I want to look at that image a second time. Anything like that come to mind?
No, not that I can think of. I think you did a great job, and like your first part of the interpretation was actually really spot on. Like I gelled with that.
Thank you very much.
Like, I was like, whoa.
I appreciate that.
I was like, this guy knows his stuff. I was like, holy cow.
Oh, Pasha, don't applaud, just send money. Not you personally, but everybody else. Yes, please. I'd say that.
Please support Benjamin the Dream Wizard.
Oh, thank you so much.
Please support him.
I would really love to do this as my day job, and maybe someday I can. But in the meantime, I just love talking to people. I thank you, Polly, for sharing your dream, and I think we got something pretty good out of it, and you're satisfied with the experience.
Oh, I'm very satisfied. I think you did a fantastic job, and I'm not just saying that, and I'm not just talking out my ass. Like I did tell this dream to one other person, and the reason I say that you know your stuff is because they were pretty spot on. They had an almost identical interpretation at the beginning. Okay. So that's why I was very impressed. I was like, holy cow.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, and I always tell folks, I mean, I am not the end all be all. I have my particular approach. I have my insights that occur along the way, but talk to other people. Talk to people with a different understanding, a different background or perspective, and see if you can get them to give you something that I can't. That's perfectly fine. So yeah, that's don't just rely on me. I'm just one guy doing a thing. But okay, well, I keep trying to wrap up in my own brain and let you get back about your day. So I guess I'll just say to everyone, hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Dreamscapes. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff. I got a podcast at a website. All the links are in the description. And once again, Paulie, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much, Benjamin. You have a great day. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.